Hi there, and welcome to the Sam Sorbo Show. Incidentally, I got a lot of emails on my appearance on the Rubin Report, which, if you haven't seen it, I would love for you to go see it. But barring that, I want to show it to you, and I have it. Common Core, which was adopted throughout the nation without being tested, never tested, actually ushers in this idea that there shouldn't be competition. That was the whole premise of Common Core, is that if you go from one school to a different school, the level will be the same. Common Core makes it all common. And what parent doesn't want their child to be common? I mean, seriously, it's baked into the name. And yet everybody jumped on to the tune of billions of dollars because, let's face it, the education game, the school game in this nation is based on dollars, not on results. And so now we have a nation where children are being dissuaded from learning math. That's part of the Common Core agenda. And they're being dissuaded from reading classic literature. And they're being shown pornography in schools. It's running rampant now. And I know that most people say, well, my school's different because I really like the teachers and it's a cute little school and whatever. But you're asleep at the wheel if you're not reading the books that your children are being assigned. And if your child comes home with math homework that you can't do, your child thinks you're the stupid one.
Sam, next thing you're going to tell me that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5, but we'll save that for a different show.
Jill, I might actually. That was really cool. What was even cooler was that Dave Rubin chose that little clip to use to promote the show. It was a great conversation. We had Corey DeAngelis, who joined us. He's part of the school choice initiative. He works a lot in the pro school choice thing. And then Jill Simonian is with Prager, working on their initiative for education. And she's in the schools. And so her viewpoint was, can't we fix the schools now? And I had some thoughts on that. So if you get a chance, go to check it out. Let's go over to a couple of emails. This one has to do with the Rubin Report with Jill and Corey. First, let me preface my comment and question by stating that I am an educator teaching in both private and public schools for the last 28 years. Whew. I agree with so much of what you and the other panelists stated, especially the fact that the system is broken and has been for such a long time. I also agree that wokeness has insidiously invaded the instruction in classrooms. Currently, I work for a private company that teaches teachers how to teach math. No wokeness allowed. Because, of course, we know now that they're teaching that math in itself is racist and trying to discourage children from learning math, which is, I struggle with that. Okay. But I wanted to ask how are you, your podcast, your team, battling the issue of teaching teachers how to truly teach. I think the problems stem from universities not teaching teachers what their true role is. It was about truth and the greatness of America. We still had improvements to make. No place is perfect. It was never about becoming SJWs and all that mess entails. I'm glad to know that there are people like you, Jill and Corey, that are fighting this battle. Thank you for your time and consideration. And so, Frank, I will answer you because I think first of all, I think within your question, you have identified the real issue. And that is that they have taught our teachers to raise SJWs. And so the teachers, they are teaching things, but they're not educating. They are schooling. And so what you're asking me is, how do we re-educate the teachers so that they know better what their jobs are? And I would put to you that is a very tall order. And I don't necessarily have the answer. But what I will say is that if we actively engage in the debate about the definition of education and what we really want for our children, then we will better be able to delineate our goals and our desires. And then there will be people, whether they are previously teachers or previously not teachers, there will be a new marketplace, and there will be people who step into that. And maybe, because I don't believe you can take teachers and tell them, hey, you're wrong about this, do this way. I think you have to show people that we want this done this way, and if you'll do it that way, you'll get hired. Does that make sense? And I do believe that if you want to home educate your children, you can certainly hire a tutor for them. The idea is there are so many different facets to home education that that yes, some of it you can outsource and delegate, and some of it you simply should not. And unfortunately, we were sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, seduced into thinking that we could just outsource the whole thing. And unfortunately, when we did that with education, we included parenting. Accidentally, no doubt, and yet somehow that's what happened. So by the way, I really appreciate your letters. I got a ton of them here. We're not going to get through them all. I really appreciate most of them. Not this one though. Chris wrote to me, "What a horrible person you must be. Dump made you all morally bankrupt." Yeah. Yeah. Whose morals? Idiot. Sorry, I got nothing for you. You're just silly. Okay, next. I'm in the Bay Area, and this is on my post on leftism, the threat against Judeo-Christian ethic. I'm in the Bay Area, and this is happening. It's Nazi-esque and surreal. I have been planning a move for years. I'm born and raised here. And the more indecisive I get, the more deconstructionist, Marxist the legislatures and bureaucrats get in my district. Legislators, I think she meant. With staying for my elderly parents, many more than me are suffering from this destruction of law and order in what was once our hometown, in the name of, quote, eradicating white supremacist classism. Ugh, they write. There's no name attached to this. And this is what's fascinating. They claim that they want to eliminate the class structure. What capitalism does and did and has accomplished is it has accomplished the elimination of the class system, the class structure. So just because for purposes of simplicity, we will define the middle class, the poor class, the upper class, we can call them those things, but there's no, oh, look at this. I didn't move my mic over. There's no hard and fast rule to classes in this nation. There's no set structure. There's no demarcations. And most importantly, you're not born into it. That's the difference. And yet here we have the fascists who are classist beyond all, they're just beyond measure, right? And they are proposing a vaccine passport. That's classist, because if you have the passport, you are a member. And if you don't have the passport, they won't call it classist. They'll say, no, it's not classist. So we have to really work at defining our terms and making sure that they don't have the opportunity to just walk away with everything, with the whole cake, because that's what they're out for. And I think they smell blood in the water right now with the ascendancy of Biden and Harris. Okay, this is a comment on Dr. Seuss, cancel culture, and this guy wrote, the fascist conducted book burnings. The liberal fascists have their cancel culture. Same fascists, same action, silencing any opposition. Well, ain't that the truth? Very clever comment. Thank you very much for that comment. This one's also on Dr. Seuss. And I really appreciated this because I like math, and this really spoke to my mathness. Math, what is it? Mathophilia. Mathophilia, yeah, okay. To add additional information to what you said about the whole word methodology, which I talked about when I spoke about Dr. Seuss, Instead of phonics for teaching reading, all of the words in the English language are composed of something like 44 letter sound combinations. If, through intensive drill, a child memorizes those 44 letter sound combinations, he can read and pronounce every word in the English language. That's why we teach phonics, because it unlocks language, the English language specifically, right? Now, they might not know the meaning of that word, but they can look it up. They can at least pronounce it. He writes, whole word teaches not to memorize letter sound combinations, but rather memorize thousands upon thousands of word pictures. So it's just the snapshot of those letters together, what it looks like. So a bed looks like a bed. So you memorize those shapes, make the sound bed and mean bed. Okay. An educated person may know, word pictures. An educated person may now use 30 or 40,000 words. So what's easier to memorize? 44 letter sound combinations or 30 or 40,000 word pictures? Basically, whole word is teaching reading English as if it is pictographic reading, like a system like the ancient Egyptians or Chinese used. And yes, this has been done to dumb down the mass population and cut them off from the knowledge of our past in books. You know what? When Biden came out and said that the legislation that the Republicans wanted to oppose was like not Jim Crow, but Jim Eagle, he ought to have pointed out that Jim Crow laws were Democrat-led laws. So there's actually no correlation whatsoever. Shame on him. So that was an aside. Okay. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. All right, I want to read this one. Yeah, I have just enough time to cover this. This person also saw David Rubin and emailed me. Thank you. Really interested in what I had to say and said it really resonated with him. My wife and I have been homeschooling our 4 daughters since birth, about 9 years now, and we love it. That's awesome. He says he agrees with me about the indoctrination aspect of both public and private schooling, and the thought of ever putting our daughters in that environment really frightens me. One really interesting aspect of my situation is that my wife and I are on very different pages politically and socially. I'm more of the Trump supporting conservative and she's more of the woke liberal type. I'm sure you can imagine that this causes a lot of intense disagreements about how to approach subjects like history and current events. He even went on a podcast to talk about it. I listened to most of it. He wants to suggest that I devote some time on this show to this subject, which he suspects impacts many more marriages and close relationships than one might think. And so I will attempt to address this here, but I'm considering bringing him on to talk about it more. First of all, I tell young people it's very important that you find somebody who is compatible with you politically, because everything devolves into politics. And I know that that's a dirty word, and it shouldn't be, because it's the truth. They've made it a dirty word. Okay. That's not my fault. But it really, you can have 2 people who are not politically engaged and they're compatible. But if you are at all politically engaged, you better find somebody who's politically engaged in a similar, avenue as you have, or there's going to be problems. And why do I say that? Because your politics is informed by your worldview. And so it's really worldview that we're looking to see is compatible. And these 2 people, from the email and also from listening to his appearance on the show